Imagine waking up one morning and realizing your money isn't really your money anymore. Every dollar you spend, every coffee, every Uber, every late night, don't tell my wife I ordered this Amazon purchase, all of it instantly appears on a giant government dashboard, like you just live streamed your bank account to Washington. That's the digital dollar, not crypto, not freedom money, more like money with GPS chip attached to it. Here's how it works. Instead of your bank keeping a private ledger of your transactions, the Federal Reserve keeps the master ledger. They see the money move the moment you tap your card. Boom, logged. Boom, traced. Boom, analyzed. Think of your dollar like little digital pigeons. And every time you spend one, it flies home and reports exactly what you did, where, when, and with whom. A snitch currency, a tattletale dollar. They say this will eliminate corruption. Yeah, sure. Corruption hates light the same way cockroaches do. So guess what cockroaches do when you flick on the lights? They don't die. They just move somewhere darker. Trust me. The nation's capital isn't volunteering to do its business under a stadium floodlight. So instead, we get the hybrid version. Digital money controlled by the government, routed through private banks, which gives them all the surveillance and none of the transparency. Perfect for them, awful for Joe Average, who just wants to buy a burger without being analyzed by a cyber priesthood. This is the real question. Is the digital dollar America's next big power move, or the velvet glove version of digital submission? Because tools built to fight corruption have a funny habit of mutating into the tools that fight you and me. And if you think that can't happen, think again. Corruption evolves faster than viruses. America's debt trap and digital dollar escape plan. What are these? Hi, dear friends, and welcome to the Eagle's View. I'm your host, Tim Suleiman, and in this channel, we study and analyze open source world news, global events, and trends. My goal is to help you put together the fragmented and kaleidoscopic news we're being fed on a daily basis and learn to see the invisible, read between the lines, and understand what's not being said or what we're being distracted away from, all to get the bigger telescopic picture. In other words, I would like you to be able to see the eagle's view. This is what this program is all about. Everyone's seen the US debt clock. Big green numbers spinning like a slot machine in hell. $38 trillion and climbing. It's mesmerizing in a horrifying way, like watching a car crash in a slow motion while eating popcorn. Some fun facts first. What if you laid $1 bills end to end from this debt? The length of one bill is 6.14 inches, or 0.156 of a meter. 35 trillion bills times 0.156 of a meter equals 5.46 trillion meters. The Earth's circumference equals 40 million meters. Conclusion: the debt chain would wrap around the Earth 136 times. The Congress basically speedruns making a money paper belt for the planet, able to wrap around it 136 times. If you spent $1 every second to pay off 35 trillion debt, let's calculate. $1 per second equals 35.1 million per year. Time to pay, 35 million divided by 31.5 equals 1.1 million years. Congratulations, the debt will be gone right before humans evolve into transcendent energy entities. Maybe. Okay, seriously. Here's the thing. The debt number itself isn't the real problem. I know that sounds insane, but stay with me. The real problem is interest, because you can drown with a small debt and big interest faster than you can with a massive debt and tiny interest. And right now, America is learning that lesson the hard way. The US federal debt passed 38 trillion in October 2025. It jumped a full trillion in just a couple of months. Federal debt held by the public is sitting at about 100% of GDP, and projections say it will hit 120% by 2035. But again, that's not the scary part. The scary part is what happens when you have to roll over a quarter of that debt at interest rates that have more than doubled since 2022. The US isn't just in debt, it's on an adjustable rate mortgage with the future, and the rate just adjusted. badly. So the real question isn't how big the debt is. The question is, how long before the interest bill breaks the system? And more importantly, what kind of creative accounting tricks is Washington cooking up to avoid facing reality? I'm your host on Eagle's View, where we look at what actually moves history, not what the headlines want you to panic about. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button, because today we're talking about the debt trap Washington can't escape and the digital dollar workaround they're pretending isn't a workaround. So let's dig in. Here's the brutal math, and I'll explain it like you are explaining it to your neighbor over a beer. The average interest rate on US marketable debt hits about 3.4% by mid 2025. That's more than double what it was in early 2022. Now, 3.4% doesn't sound apocalyptic until you realize we're talking about $38 trillion. Suddenly, that percentage turns into real money, terrifying money. In fiscal year 2025, interest payments on the debt were roughly 970 billion with a B. That's about 19% of all federal revenue. Put another way, that's about $7,300 per household in America just to service the interest, not to pay down the debt, not to fund schools or roads or anything useful. Just interest. It's like paying the minimum on your credit card forever while the balance keeps growing. Treasury data shows maintaining the debt is costing you about 1.2 trillion a year, now roughly 17% of all federal spending. And projections say interest could hit 18 to 22% of federal revenues in the next decade. At this point, America doesn't have a budget. It has a GoFundMe for its interest payments. Now, here's where it gets even more fun. A quarter of US debt comes due between 2025 and 27. That means Washington has to reissue those bonds at current yields, which are way higher than the old rates. Every time they roll over debt, the interest cost explodes a little more. It's like refinancing your house at a double the rate while your income stays flat. Eventually, something breaks. So Washington is standing between a volcano and a cliff, and they have three choices, and none of them are pretty. Let's talk about the three ugly options DC is staring at. Option 1, austerity and fiscal discipline. Cut spending hard or raise taxes dramatically. Balance the budget like responsible adults. In theory, this is what you're supposed to do. In balance, it's a political suicide. With an aging population, entitlements locked in, and politicians who need to get re-elected every 2 years, this option requires fantasy-level courage. So scratch that one. Option 2, inflate it away. Let inflation run hot for a while above the interest rate, quietly rob savers, pensions, and wage earners to shrink the real value of the debt. It's like paying back a loan with monopoly money. Politically, it's easier because most people don't understand what's happening until it's too late. And by the way, that's where I come in. Morally, it's garbage. But hey, when has morality ever stopped a government? Option 3, financial innovation. And this is where things get interesting. You can't fix a math problem with a press release. So instead of fixing the debt, they're trying to fix the infrastructure. Not bridges or roads, the infrastructure of money itself. Reshape how dollars move, who controls them, how they're tracked, and suddenly you've got more tools to manage the chaos without admitting you're managing the chaos. This is where digital dollars, stablecoins, and central bank digital currency structures sneak into the conversation. Not because they solve the debt problem. They don't. But because they give Washington more control over the flow of money, more visibility into where it goes, and more ways to squeeze revenue without raising taxes openly. And right in the middle of this debt storm, we get the great digital dollar debate. Now, Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell has been pretty clear about this. In early 2025, he told Congress, "No central bank digital currency while I am in charge. Not happening." He's concerned about privacy. He argues that current payment systems like FedNow already work well enough. And honestly, he seems visibly irritated every time someone asks him about CBDCs, like a teacher being asked the same dumb question for the 10th time. But zoom out for a second. The Fed has been formally studying CBDCs for years. They've published discussion papers. The IMF and Bank for International Settlements openly say that CBDCs create a digital trail of data that can be used for policy but comes with serious privacy risks. And 91% of central banks globally are exploring some form of CBDC. So Powell can say no all he wants, but the train is already moving. And here is where it gets sneaky. In mid-2025, Congress passed landmark crypto legislation. It regulates stablecoins and opens the door for banks to issue their own dollar-pegged tokens. And it specifically bans the Fed from issuing a CBDC. So, on paper, America said no to a government digital currency. But at the same time, it green-lighted private banks issuing digital dollars. You see the trick? Powell says no state-run digital dollar on my watch. Congress says, perfect. We'll let Wall Street issue digital dollars instead. And global central banks warn that private stablecoins could threaten monetary sovereignty, so they push for public sector alternatives. In other words, the US won't call it a CBDC. It'll just behave like one, but through banks. It's like saying, we're not installing cameras in your house, we're just forcing every window company to sell glass that records video. Technically, it's different. Financially, identical. So how does this help with the dead time bomb? And what does it do to normal people like you and me? Let's bring it down to street level. First, tax collection. Digital dollars and regulated stablecoins mean cleaner data. Every transaction leaves a trail. That makes automatic withholding easier, real-time tax monitoring possible, and the gray economy a lot smaller. You can collect more revenue without openly raising tax rates. For a government staring at over $8 trillion a year in interest costs, that's pure gold. Second, behavior shaping. Once everyone is traceable and programmable, you can incentivize spending during downturns, penalize certain sectors, restrict flows during crises. The official line is stability. The real line is quiet financial steering. It's not outright control, it's nudging, but nudging backed by a code. Third, individual risk. Easier account freezes, easier blacklisting, easier debanking. Your financial reputation starts to look like a social score without anyone calling it that. The IMF and BIS documents literally discuss the economic value of CBDC data and warn that mishandling it erodes freedom and trust. They know the risks. They are just betting the benefits outweigh them. And here is the kicker. This system is great at catching small fish. The average person trying to hide a few $1,000s? Nailed. But the big players? They just move to deeper waters. Offshore entities. Layered shell companies. Jurisdictions outside the US system. It's the cockroach principle. Turn on the kitchen light, and the little bugs scatter. The big ones, they were already living in the walls. In a world of weaponized debt and weaponized money, Washington's dream solution is simple. Make the dollar more traceable, more programmable, and harder to escape. That doesn't fix the math. It just gives them more ways to squeeze the lemon. So does a digital dollar plan save America from its debt? At best, it buys time. At worst, it buys control. The debt problem is real. The interest problem is brutal. And the political courage to fix it is missing in action. But here's where I want to shift gears. I'm not a prophet. I don't have a crystal ball. I don't do predictions. What I do is calculate probabilities. I look at patterns, connect dots, and show you what might be coming so you're not blindsided. And yes, some of this sounds dark. Some of it is uncomfortable. But here's the thing people forget. We adapt. Human beings have been adapting for thousands of years. We survived ice ages. We outlived dinosaurs and mammoths. We built civilizations on top of the ruins of the old ones. We figured out fire, agriculture, engines, and the internet. And we'll figure this one out too. The systems might change, the rules might shift, the infrastructure of money might get an upgrade that feels intrusive and controlling. But you know what doesn't change? Human resilience, human creativity, the ability to see what's coming, adjust, and keep moving forward. The people who thrive in the next chapter won't be the ones who panic or pretend nothing's happening. They'll be the ones who see the bigger picture, the eagle's view, the ones who understand the game, make informed choices, and build resilience into their lives financially, mentally, and spiritually. I know, I keep saying this all the time. Knowing that our survival might depend on systems we don't fully control can spark deep anxiety. I get it. That's why I do this work. I'm a coach who helps people transform and rise above fears like this, to experience permanent peace of mind, not panic. If you feel like you need help building that kind of clarity and resilience, book a call with me. The link is in the description below. And subscribe to Eagle's View. We're here every week, cutting through the noise, showing you the patterns that matter, and helping you stay grounded when everything around you is shifting. The future is uncertain, but so was every other chapter of human history, and we're still here. Remember, those who have better understanding of what's going on in the world exert control over those who have no such knowledge, only see fragments and see no bigger picture. Knowledge isn't just power, it's sovereignty, and right now, most people are sleepwalking. Meanwhile, my friends, let's continue to soar like eagles, seeing the bigger picture from high above. And please, do not let kaleidoscopic world news fragments obscure your grasp of what is really going on. Let's rise above the noise. Keep your vision clear and hold your ground while the rest of the world scrambles in the dark. That's a wrap for today. Thank you for watching Eagle's View, and bye for now.